Good afternoon, traders. This is Nuke coming back at you. And today wasn't the best day for the trading world, but nonetheless, we put out a watch list this morning, and I'd like to go back over that with you this afternoon. We'll take a look at some of these trades, see how they played out, and we'll try not to get off in the weeds too bad on this, just because it was a really, overall, from what I saw, it was a pretty choppy and craptastic day. So we're not going to focus on it a ton. If you made money, I'm very happy for you. Share that knowledge with somebody else that's doing a little less fortunate than you are. But overall, I totally stayed out of the market today. I overslept, wasn't feeling good. So did a little bit of work and basically put in the bare minimum today, but I was smart enough to keep my money out of it. And always live to fight another day. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at this. We will approach this from the top down. Facebook had some interesting pre-market action. Really kind of shot out there a little bit. I wasn't too confident with all the calls on this just because of how shady the pre-market was. You had a lot of price action change, but wasn't a ton of volume behind it making it happen. Anyway, it actually did better than we were anticipating, but if you look at the full range of the markout, it didn't even dip down below the support level. So what it did do was it broke out and it dropped back. It retested the daily resistance. And then once it held above this trend line we had drawn, it really kind of took off, and then eventually it pulled back a little bit. And then once it broke below this, you're really in territory you shouldn't be in. I haven't gone into full depth with this. As my channel develops, I'll start rolling out some information where some of this will make more sense to you. But if you look here, each one of these color bands is broke out at 100% compared to the pre-market high to low action. So this would be 100% above the pre-market high or low. This would be 200% above the pre-market high or low. It dipped into that 300% territory, but not even close. And right after it did that, bam, it slams down below it. And then here the price action just petered out. You double topped. And then after that double top, she dropped, tried to come up and retest again, slams down again. So all in all, if you were into Facebook today and you had the guts to stay in and just grind it out, man, you could have made a killing on this once you got this confirmation. If you jumped in long, let's see, this thing was good for, on the best, let's just call it a best case scenario, you're not catching the whole move, but the majority of it. You were good for 3 full points, and then riding that downside down, you could easily smashed out with 1.5 points. So, and then at any point along there, you could have, took a partial and then jumped back in if you wanted to, or stayed in it all day. All in all, it did way better than I anticipated. Looking at it on the daily, come over here and zoom in, and this candle, the body, fit right where we were projecting. But look at the wick on this thing, and then it slams back down. So I'm very happy with this pre-market assessment on like what the total range of movement for the day would be. Yeah, it wasn't the day for me to get involved in it, but marketing analysis has turned out great. I couldn't ask for better. Well, of course I could. I'm a greedy bastard. Let's see. Apple, how did that do? This is the one where it just was not cooperating with me. It wouldn't transfer my 1 minute markings over to my daily. But let's just take a look and see how it did. You see how skinny this was compared to the other one? Something just was up with Apple. The price action wasn't there. It broke above the pre-market resistance briefly. And then, well, first it tested the pre-market support. Then it breaks up. Got to the high side, made it 50% above the pre-market resistance, slammed back down, just consolidated. Tried to head back south, and somebody was like, no, we're not going to drive this thing to the ground just yet. And tried to pick back up to the 100%. It tagged it twice. Once you got that double tap, down she goes. How far did she go? Nobody knows. She went all the way past the pre-market support, dipped about 50% into the 100% below pre-market action. So let's take a look at that on the daily, and we'll see what that looks like. The body, again, but due to where it was at, it's kind of sparse. the body was actually a very small candle, but if you look at the wicks, it basically was a little bit offset because of the time frame and the charting on TOS, but that wick would have filled up just about 90 to 95% of this entire area we had marked out. So I am thoroughly happy with this one as well. Wouldn't have touched it today, but I'm very happy with the pre-market analysis. Netflix. All right, what are we looking at? Woo, woo. Yeah, there's my sound effects. I must be feeling better. I got a little sleep, guys. Probably grand total of about 4 hours of sleep today. Still feeling kind of crappy, but you know what? I'm feeling a hell of a lot better than I was this morning. So what did it do? It broke above the pre-market action, came back, tested halfway into the pre-market action, got above it. Man, this thing just was a steady grinder all day. We didn't actually trend line this out. You know what? I might go ahead and do that. Ooh, that's way too much. I might just go ahead and trend line this out to now, right now. Let's see. Yeah. All right, we'll go with that. Draw it across those two reds. Probably missing something here. But yeah, steady grind, come back and tested it. Also met resistance to the fib, come back and tested the 100% extension. Nope, retested that trend line. Finally decided it wanted to break up above. You see how these things are tapping these Fibonacci's over and over, and then once it decided to get in gear and it got out of this little consolidation channel that it had going on right here, once it breaks out of this consolidation channel, it tags the Fibonacci resistance and it tagged the trend line, and then bam, it just shoots up. But you notice how it just slams to a halt right there at 200% above the daily pre-market action. Now let's take a look at that on a daily. Oh, and then afterwards when it finally breaks down, comes down here outside the Bollinger Bands, comes back up to test that trend line, nearly on the money. And then what happens? It rejects this price action, slams down. If you'd have shorted it here, bring it all the way back down to the 100% increments, you'd have noticed, look at that solid resistance that you have forms right there. So just that one side alone, what would that have netted you? No, let's break it down to the fib, because I probably wouldn't have taken it until I got this red candle on the fib. So about 3.3, 3 1/3 points. That's not bad. I mean, especially on Netflix, you can get up in there and hammer them down for points. It's cool. Not the best, like it's not really everything I shoot for, but you know what? I'm all about consistency, and these bigger dollar stocks, they tend to be a little more consistent than the little guys. Anyway, on the daily action, we're ping-ponging around here, just kind of consolidating, but looks like we're moving on the high side of that consolidation. So tomorrow, I might expect, depending on what the pre-market action looks like, this thing might jump up above the Bollinger Band and present us with a candle that tests this high side resistance, or maybe it breaks down and retests the low side support. But I would be more inclined to think that with today's action, this thing might retest this upper side of the Bollinger Band. We'll zoom in a little closer, and you see that this full body, we were off by where we were projecting the price action to be, but that part of that had a lot to do with the price action and Thinkorswim charts. But if you were to superimpose this and just drag it down or drag this up, the range worked out nearly perfect. Now it did go way higher. Let me go ahead and let's see. Yeah, so if I were to carry this across, look at that. So if you're, that ain't what we wanted. Thanks for bearing with me. I am just a junkie with a monkey right now when it comes to this Crayola stuff. Yeah, so if I mark it out to where it tops out at, which was, boom, that's pretty spot on. I mean, if you guys can do better, by all means, please, you guys tune into me and you show me what the hell you're doing, because I want some of it. All right, let's move on. Baba. what did Baba do? Baba's kind of petered out a little bit. And again, guys, y'all are seeing this the first time right here with me. After I created this list, I did a little bit of work in the room and I went my happy ass to bed. I just called it a day. It wasn't for me. So the pre-market action was kind of shady. I didn't think it was going to get over this, and I think I told y'all that. We drew a couple of trend lines on it. Did it help us out? Probably not a whole hell of a lot. It just because the range was really choppy. So what did that look like? We drew one underneath at first, and then we drew one on the top once it shorted down. And yeah, it maintained that short until it got into this pressure squeeze, broke up above. And then what happens? You run square into one of these Fibonacci's. Oops, I don't want to edit it. I want to do this. Let's highlight it. So dead on balls at the Fibonacci, comes back down, dead on balls at the Fibonacci, comes out, breaks out just a little bit, but we're extended above the Bollinger Band, slams down. Once it breaks this, which this would have been a support trend line, once it breaks down below that support trend line, it starts shorting. And then what was formerly a resistance trend line, because it wasn't breaking above it, now becomes the support for the downside of the move until it finally breaks it at the end of the day. So how did that look like on the daily? Come across here. And like I was expecting, it's pretty craptastic candle action. I mean, this is just a fraction of what you'd expect to see out of BABA, but it is commensurate with the previous red candles. And I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday in the after action recap where I don't remember what stock it was, but I went over like two of them where I was examining these candles and they just weren't really giving us a lot of full body. So I was expecting the day would be a real slim green or a decent red. We ended up with a slim red. So based on tomorrow's pre-market action, I'd be interested to see where this thing goes. But I don't really think with all the tariff wars and everything going on, there's a whole lot of market sentiment about placing any big dollar investments into this right now, just with the uncertainty that's on the table. So as long as it's the little guys like me and some of you out there feeding for scraps, you'll get a decent enough range of motion to make reasonable money on it, but you're not going to see that big money and the big volume piling in there. And that's okay. It's okay. There's a spot every day of the week. So all in all, I was happy with where the range of the analysis ran in. I was not too happy with the actual turnout of the ticker, but that was expected with the pre-market volume and the pre-market price action. So, all right, let's move on. I don't think I even looked at Tesla today. I did not. Do we do Netflix, Apple, Baba, Facebook? All right. So the next one on my list would be Square. And let me pause this for just a second. Just bear with me. Ooh, all right, that's good. Sorry, guys. I had to blow the old schnoz, and y'all didn't want to see or hear that. All right, Square. It was one of the higher volume. It was the second highest volume trade that came up on my scanner for the $45 to $135 price range, and had great pre-market action. But basically what you're seeing is in the pre-market, it kept gapping up and up and up. And then come the break of the bell, we'll zoom in just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. A little bit more. Pre-market action, it gets up in here. And right out of the gate, it drops down a little bit, grabs a little bit of support. No, actually, it would have opened here with it. Sorry. It had, just before the bell, it had came down. So it was outside that Bollinger Band. The bell rings. Boom, it shoots up to, let's just see on that shit. I like this. Yeah. So it would have opened here. And you had some price action go up. But, a couple of good solid green candles. And what does it do? It breaks the Bollinger Band. And it does that right at the point, well, because your price action. This was prior to, what was that, 545. The 100% mark would have been here. But after 545, which we had already drawn our lines by then, that's when it broke out up to here. But it basically tested the pre-market high of day, which would have been right here on the top wick of this one. It tested that one. It's outside the Bollinger Band. It rejects, and where does it start going? It's heading back home. In just a few candles, it's all the way down here, testing this pre-market support of the day. Look at that. Looks like a hockey stick. Looks like a bubble that just got popped. Finds a little bit of support, comes back, heading to see if it's going to go up there. And by this time, market sentiment was just, you know what, it's a shitty day. And you're also an hour into it, so you get the computer algorithms start trading against you and all. And you can really see that shift where these were nice, big, hearty candles. And even, you know, when it started getting choppy, you had these big, solid candles. And then right up here, right around that 1 hour after the bell crossover, and the computers start trading, your little guys like us, we get out, we're just not having it. The computers take over, and what you see is these smaller candles start to dominate. And that's when you know it's just not for you, right? You could still make money on it, but what does it do? It peters out, just channel trades, you know, and in a stock that could move up to, you know, $4 to $5 a day some days. We had a good action. It wasn't bad price action, but it narrows down, right? And as long as you caught the right side of the trend lines, you know, this would make fairly reliable money to you. But you notice how it didn't break back out of that pre-market support at 94.24. And what would that have looked like for us? If it had broke out, it would have probably just petered out somewhere in this 50% of the 100% below range, but it didn't even make it there. How does that look like on the daily? Let's zoom in, give it a look. See, we have a nice candle. You know, it's not the best day. I mean, it's a fraction of this. But what do we see on here, right? If we get away from just the obvious. And this is where I haven't gotten all my indicators I use with you guys, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm just rolling this channel out, so I don't want to overload people. And I want to make sure I get my feet wet with doing this whole recording for the masses thing. You know, I'm one of those guys, I'll be honest. I really prefer to just trade for myself, by myself, with myself. I play with myself a lot. It's just when I got too many people in my head and you got all those questions going around, my trading suffers. I'd rather kind of do my own thing, start showing you a little sample of what I do, and then we can get into explaining the why, the how, the what, the when. And that's also something that's way more, it's a better format to work that out within our trading group over at Boiler Room. Trying to tell you all how I do this stuff off of a few comments here and there in a YouTube video. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody for your opinion if you think you're going to get a good one there, but YouTube channels, the breadth of the subject matter is just far too deep to say that we can go into a little YouTube, even like this. It's taking a couple of minutes to get off tangent, but we're not going to have the time we need to delve into these subjects. So you kind of got to take these videos for what they're worth. If you find the information applicable and you like it, use it. By all means, you know, I hope you get some value out of it. But at the end of the day, this is not a substitute for like the learning process. This is more of a show and tell. Like, hey, look at what I do. This is how I do it. Have a look-see. But this isn't what you use to develop your own methodology. All right, with that being said, our action did fall in pretty much a full body within right in that middle range we were looking at. So I'm happy with the pre-market analysis. Not as happy as I could have been with the ticker, but with the crappy trading day we had, this isn't unexpected. And like I said, it broke out above this Bollinger Band. Tomorrow, if I would be looking to see this thing come on back down and get inside the lines of the Bollinger Band, if anything. So there's a chance this thing could shoot up. There's a chance. There's always a chance, but I just don't see it. You know, I see it getting a little bit of consolidation there for the rest of the week, and then maybe you'll see something like that next week. All right, let's roll on. Next one down on the price list would have been AMD. AMD, where are we at? AMD is sitting here. There we go. Our pre-market action, it was not able to get back up near the pre-market resistance of 32.80. Made it about halfway there at the start of the bell. And then what happens? Get back out of there. What happens? It slams down. We had drawn a trend line. Once it breaks underneath this trend line, it comes on down. Look at that. That long wick tested our pre-market 100% extension below. comes back up, does not get enough juice to steam up into this category. So by now you're starting to think, okay, we done shorted the shit out of this thing. What's our trend lines look like? You know, you draw it across those wicks. So once you got basically across all the wicks here, or you could have even drawn it like this. Whatever, you know, you got to use what makes sense to you. You know, I mean, as you go, you constantly are moving this, but you reach that point where, oh, this don't make sense. I'm still raising it. Well, you're not shorting it. You could have took a long here. You know, so I try not to overdo my trend lines. And then again, you'll see a couple of videos and you're like, holy shit, that's way overdoing your trend lines. But even if we do it like this, you'll notice the original trend line we drew in the morning, it's still holding underneath that. But it breaks outside of the Bollinger Band, comes back up, tests the Fibonacci, damn near on the money, comes back down, breaks below the Bollinger Band, comes back up, tags a Fibonacci on the money, breaks down, tags a Fibonacci on the money, comes up, tags a Fibonacci on the money, drops down, doesn't quite hit it, but you can see the method to the madness where it's just bottoming out, finding that support, comes back up, and this trend line is acting as resistance. You know, and this is the first one we, oh, is that the first one? No, that's the last one we drew. But it's definitely finding that. And then where is it going? All right, so where does it go? Comes down here, finds that support, not dead on, but slightly off. And then when it finally breaks above, where's it going? Right back up towards the pre-market resistance. So yeah, it's confusing when you're new. Older guys are like, yeah, shut up, let's just move forward. And the reason being is the more you do this, the more this just becomes a natural thing your eyes pick up on. So what does this look like on the daily? So we come in here and let's get a good look at this candle. And our body fills up about probably 3/4, maybe 4/5 of the pre-market action. But our wick dipped down right on point. So I am happy with the pre-market analysis. I would like to have seen a little more movement to that candle, but with it being kind of a shady day, not anything surprising. So very happy with the pre-market analysis on this one. Next up is going to be, this is the one I couldn't get yesterday, NBEV. There we go. Good Lord, this got ugly. Oh, that was ugly, baby. I don't even want to get into this. See, to me, once it starts coming up with this digital, this ain't you and me, guys. This is computers getting in here bouncing this thing around. And I don't like trading against computers, but I heard some people talking about it. It had good pre-market volume. So, and what it was it was gapping up. But before the market even opened, it was already on its way back down. So if you'd have trend lined this thing out, come on. Yeah. I mean, and then later on in the day, you trend line this thing out. Yeah. I expect to see this thing drop some more tomorrow even. Just, it shouldn't have had the activity that it did. Just a lot of hype and not a lot of follow through. That's what happens when you get those rooms that pump stuff up like, oh man, this is great, and then it's not. But yeah, range of movement, let's get back to that. We'll look at where it was. Did not break the pre-market high, slightly broke the pre-market low, did not even dip into the 100. So what did we look like on the daily? I'd say that's, you know, the range definitely nailed it where it's not going to escape, but it just didn't have the gusto to really make you a ton of money. And maybe it did. I mean, good luck to you if it did. But to me, this wasn't a ticker I would have fooled with after the start of the open. And AMRN, let's see if we can track him now. Where did he go? Hey, he moved up in price. Hey, that must be a good thing. That's why I couldn't find him. Alrighty, pre-market action. It earlier we were on the bottom side just before about 45 minutes before. About 45 minutes before the open of the bell, and it was tagging outside the Bollinger Band, tagging the bottom of the pre-market action. So where does it go? It comes on up, sets in a new pre-market high, comes back in, and it's testing this earlier pre-market high, and that formed that new support line. Where does it go? Breaks through the pre-market, the actual, just before the bell pre-market high, breaks through that, and then it heads on up like it's trying to get all the way up to 100% above, but it doesn't quite. That's okay. Sometimes, they're not going to hit dead on balls with the entirety of the move. But I would say that it tagged it close enough to say that this is a relevant assessment. That Fibonacci caught it fine, slams on down, finds some support here around this Fibonacci, comes back up, boop, teeters around, and then this is really your turning point here, where everything's trying to gravitate to is setting a new status quo around that pre-market high. And that's where it just kind of consolidated for the rest of the day. What did it look like on the daily? See how we had this huge gap up. That's 3 days in a row we gapped up. And we've got, maybe this is the one I was talking about where I was analyzing the candles. So we got one big green candle, medium green candle, small bodied green candle. Even though we had more of a wick, the body is smaller, right? So I'm happy with the analysis where the price action fell in the range. And tomorrow I will probably, if the charts are working good and I'm able to get up and be energetic, I am going to smack this thing around like it owes me some money. And probably a lot of the people in the market are, I don't know, it could be wrong. I'm shocked. I'm not going to guess what the market's going to do, but I would not be surprised to see this thing throw me a red candle in here. And if it's a red candle that drops all the way back to $5 land or below, money. All right, with that being said, that is the last of the tickers we have to go over. We're about 31 minutes into this. I think you got about 30 minutes of solid video. I hope you guys are getting something out of this. Leave me some comments below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to keep working on my end. I'm new to this whole YouTube thing, and we're going to have some more types of videos coming out soon, but I wanted to kind of get this nailed down, start getting in my routine before my official rollout of October 1st. And then hopefully we'll have the full amount of the channel content nailed down by the first of the year. But I like it. We're getting a lot of people behind us. It's gaining steam fast. And I hope you guys are getting something out of it. If you want to help me out, the things I could really use out of you guys in the comments are telling me what you like. Like if you're seeing some value to this, why is it making sense to you? Like, am I not overcrowding you with information? I understand visually it's probably way more than what you're used to seeing. But in my breakdown on how I'm walking you through it, what I need to know from you guys is the methodology making sense to you? Is this kind of like, oh, okay, now I see what I didn't see before? That's the kind of feedback I need. It's like, what's this doing for you in a positive way? All right. Well, any further, I'm done. I'm going to start working on some of my homework for the day. And I think tonight's going to be a really nice night in bed and try and catch up on that sleep. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early, hopefully. Helps if you hit the stop button.